doing?
I'm good.
All right, get that mic right up to you, okay?
Okay.
Don't be afraid to move it around, push it up, push it down.
That's good.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's 8 o'clock on Thursday night, and you are about to listen to a very special 51st installment of the Age Out Angels Radio Hour on www.hamiltonradio.net, Channel 2. I'm your host, Greg Rapport. I'm the founder and executive director of Age Out Angels. We are a 501c3 nonprofit corporation that provides one-to-one mentors to vulnerable youth for the purpose of coordinating the care and services that they need to survive and hopefully help them avoid some of the horrible pitfalls that they're likely to face if they don't have a proper safety net. This program is brought to you every week at the same time, courtesy of Doc G, William Saunders, Ruben Rodriguez, and all the fine people here at Hamilton Radio who allow us to use this airtime. Doc G is on the big board tonight, along with Robin producing. Always a pleasure to see both of you, and always a pleasure to speak with all of you who are tuning in at home. We're going to try something a little bit new tonight. So, as our listening audience has been expanding, we are expanding here as well, our little family. So co-hosting with me tonight is Ratisha Berthier. Some of you may remember that Ratisha was a previous guest on this show, and we had so much fun. I invited her to come back at least once a month as her busy schedule permits, and share in the festivities. Welcome back to the Radio Hour, Ratisha.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited about being here with you all tonight.
It's great to have you here, and I want you to remind the people exactly what it is that you do, because you're part of this industry.
Okay, so as Greg said, my name is Ratisha Berthier. I am a licensed social worker, licensed in the state of New Jersey, and I am a trauma therapist. So I work with children and families who are survivors of trauma. Could be sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect.
And that is exactly the population that we serve.
Yes.
At Age Out Angels. Yes, indeed. Tonight on the Radio Hour, more of a discussion that we started 2 weeks ago about the siblings of children with special needs and how those siblings are a largely ignored population that could use a hug. Plus, the way we use labels to define foster kids and how those labels can leave scars. And does the foster mentoring program in Maricopa County, Arizona actually work? Plus a whole lot more, including our special guest. And her name is Tammy Torelli. She's an outreach specialist from Job Corps. And Job Corps is a program that will open your eyes to what amazing looks like. I promise you that. So stay with us for the whole hour tonight if you can. And please remember all of the other fine programs here at www.hamiltonradio.net. Once again, Tammy Torelli is my guest from Job Corps. And Job Corps is an organization that's in the business of providing a fresh start, basically, for people who need one. I love organizations of this type because it's like getting a do-over. You can make a lot of mistakes growing up, and you can find yourself 18, 19, 20 years old, not have a high school diploma. And this is another one of those organizations that comes along and says, you know what, we can pick you up, we can give you a fresh start, and you're going to just be amazed by Job Corps. You may know someone out there who would benefit tremendously from their service. Maybe it's you. So stay right where you are to hear all about it. Please, no call-ins tonight. Because our guest will be on the line. Now, here's Ratisha with some stories I know will get your child welfare radars fully engaged. Ratisha?
Thank you. So this is a discussion that started about 2 weeks ago. So all of Greg's faithful listeners should remember this discussion. So my question is, do you have any idea of what it's like to grow up in a household where there's a child or an adult with mental, physical, or any kind of neurological illness or disorder? So the sibling in that scenario typically gets hurt, and maybe not necessarily physical, but emotionally, because it's likely that the child with the special needs in that situation will get the lion's share of their parents' attention. So now, looking at this from an adult's point of view, we can put it in an adult context and know that the adult or the caregiver in that situation equally loved all of the children, right? But the sibling, especially the younger sibling, may not quite understand that or feel that or get that. or even how to get their own needs met in that type of situation. They can also feel like they need to be perfect. So siblings of individuals with special needs know how hard their parents are working to meet that sibling's needs. And so they may feel like they can't make mistakes because that would add to their parents' stress or burden, right? And so they may feel like they need to be perfect at all times. They may also feel like they can't really express their feelings. They may have a different idea of family and home. So for most children, their concept of family is really what their family situation is based in togetherness. But when a sibling has a special need, the family quality time may look a lot different. They also may feel like their problems are minimized. So a problem with a friend or at school may seem small compared to the problem that their sibling with the special need is having. They also may feel isolated, right? So typically the sibling may be lonely because they don't have peers in the same situation. So they may not have anybody that can relate to their family situation. And they also deal with intolerance very early and often. So they learn just from watching how people react or treat their family member or their sibling with a special need, that everyone is not universally accepted or treated the same. They may be, see people staring or treating their sibling differently, and they grow up with that. They may also feel parentified, so they may, in a lot of situations, have to pick up a lot of slack and have to do a lot more in the house and to help the parent out than another peer their age may typically have to do. So they grow up a lot of times a lot faster than their peers.
So I think most, typically developing children love their siblings with special needs. I don't doubt that,
Right.
For a second. But, it's also important to understand and support that sibling, that typical sibling, because you have to realize, right, that their needs are not being fully met,
Right.
In that environment.
Right.
So what do you have from the Chronicle of Social Change this week?
Okay, so this is a piece called Defining Moments, Disrupting Labels. And this story was written by Myra Zemay. Hope I'm pronouncing her
We
her
do
name
our
correctly.
best, yeah.
And so this is written by her. Tiffany was put into foster care a few weeks after being born. She was initially placed with a family friend, and when that person passed away, she was handed off to their daughter, who fostered Tiffany until she turned 18. Despite spending her entire life with this family, with nary a discussion about adoption, Tiffany never felt at home, never felt she was part of the family. She was not treated the same as the family's biological children, and when she was introduced, it came with the label of foster daughter. Immediately, when she would say that, Tiffany said, people would look at me different. You know what I mean? Like it's written on my forehead. When words become labels, especially if the label brings shame coupled with a host of unfortunate negative attributes, it's time to change them. It wasn't until Tiffany visited her college guidance counselor's office that the stigma attached to foster and what she felt that meant about her shifted. Her trajectory moved away from a youth who, according to her label, would likely not graduate college, to a young woman who went on to earn both a bachelor's and a master's degree. So what word can we use to describe our child that didn't come to us biologically? I'm not saying my answer will work for everyone, but it did for us. A few years ago, my husband and I brought in an older teen who was in the foster care system. We talked about how she wanted us to introduce her. I explained that I referred to my stepdaughters, also acquired in their late teens, as my bonus daughters, and she loved this idea. Now, when I introduce Laura to people who know me and my family history, she is my bonus daughter. But if a stranger asks if she is my daughter, the answer is always emphatically yes. These children who come into our lives are our sons and daughters. If the label that has been used to identify them comes with too much baggage, maybe changing it is one step closer to reframing this narrative.
So yeah, sometimes it's just all about how you use words, right? Right. And boy, would you rather be called a foster child or a bonus child?
Right. I would rather be called a bonus child.
I'd go with bonus every time. And hey, I just found out that it looks like our video feed is live on YouTube on Hamilton Radio 1. And I believe we have a caller coming in right now, right? Tammy, is that you?
Yes, it is.
All right. I want you to stay right on the line, okay? We're going to be with you in about 5 minutes, okay? Don't go away.
I won't.
All right.
Do you hear an echo?
No, I don't hear an echo.
Okay.
So good luck with that. But I was just telling the people that we appear to have the video feed up and running on Hamilton Radio 1 on YouTube. So if anyone wants to switch over to that, I don't think you can send us comments on that, though. Is that correct? No, there's no way you can send us comments. So you could send me a comment on Facebook, and I'll see it, about the show that you're watching on YouTube, unless you're listening to it on HamiltonRadio.net. It just got so confusing. I need Ratisha to save me. So finally, from Fox 10 in Arizona, does mentoring a foster child actually make a difference? Ratisha.
Okay, well, let's see. So, according to the story, there are 10,000 kids in foster care in Maricopa County alone. Many have never had a positive adult role model in their life, and most are afraid of what their future holds. It's a huge problem, but one a local organization says could be fixed with mentorship. You don't need to be a foster parent or take a child in 24/7 or adopt a child in foster care to make a difference. You can mentor them for as little as 8 hours a month and make a difference as well. Our mentor program matches volunteers from in the community with school-aged children in foster care, said Laura Pajules, Director of Arizonians for Children. You need to care, and you need to understand that they're just kids who need someone important in their life. Someone who cares about them, to introduce them to basic life lessons like how to pump gas, when to say please and thank you. Those are the things that a lot of kids in foster care aren't exposed to. These kids are those who may never find a foster family because their case is trapped in the courts and they need help now before they fall through the cracks. There are children as young as 13 with a case plan of independent living, which means when they turn 18 years old, they're going to be on their own with no knowledge of how to pay bills, how to go grocery shopping, where to find housing, or they may not even be aware that they can go to the local colleges for free. So our mentors are introducing them to all those opportunities. I interviewed a young girl who was 7 for the mentor program, who matter-of-factly told me, "My dad's in prison because he robbed a pharmacy." These are tough circumstances, but with some little time and care, a mentor can make a big difference. That's awesome.
And that's like pretty much validates our lives here at Age Out Angels. Right. I mean, that's sort of exactly what we do is offer that sort of mentorship that they're describing there. It makes me very happy to see that. So before we get to our guest, you can't hit a share button because Facebook's been so mean lately and not run our broadcasts. So there's no way that you can hit the share button. So what I'm going to need each and every person out there listening to do is please tell everyone on your email list what we're doing and that we're doing it here every Thursday night from 8 to 9 p.m. We have fabulous guests coming up. August 30th, Antonia Garcia from the University of Pennsylvania. September 6th, high school senior Alien Rubin will demonstrate his Coping with Bullying presentation. This is different than any bullying presentation you've ever seen or heard of before. This guy's brilliant. So be sure to tune in every Thursday at 8 p.m. for what we consider to be our unfiltered look at the child welfare system. So I have developed a Facebook sort of link right now on Greg Rapport on the Facebook page, and you can write to me on that if you'd like to. No call-ins. We already have our caller on the line. Let's take a short break. Tell all your friends what we're doing, and we'll be back with Tammy Torelli of Job Corps. Don't go away. And we are back. Hopefully still on the line is Tammy Torelli. Tammy is a firecracker. Tammy is a pistol. I so enjoyed my conversation with her earlier this week. Are you still there, Tammy?
Absolutely.
All right. She is the outreach and admissions specialist at Job Corps. And Tammy, I want to talk about you personally, but before we do that, I do want to give our listeners the elevator pitch for exactly what Job Corps is, because it's a pretty impressive organization.
I would definitely agree with that.
All right. So tell us in your words what Job Corps is.
Job Corps is training for young people who are 16 to 24. The best thing about our program is that it's absolutely free. The Federal Department of Labor pays for each young person so they can receive training, education, all their certifications, housing in our dorm, even a driver's license and college classes. And a student never has to pay it back. And for most people, their training only takes about a year.
That's amazing, and we're going to talk a lot more, in fact, about that in the second half of the show tonight. I think one of the things that we're all trying to do, no matter what our nonprofit is essentially taking young people and turning them into taxpayers. And what we're talking about is a government funded project here, Job Corps, right? It's purely government.
Yes, it is.
And the investment that it makes, the dollar investment that the government makes, if we can then take those young people and turn them into people who pay taxes for the next 30 or 40 or 50 years, then that's money really well spent. You know, that's your tax dollars doing a good deed. Now, you grew up in not horrible poverty, but certainly not the easiest of circumstances. Tell us a little bit about your home life.
Well, I'm the oldest of 6 kids, and I definitely grew up in a community where there were a lot of people around me who could benefit from being able to just have an opportunity that was not readily available.
It wasn't available then, was it?
No. Well,
No.
Job Corps' been around since 1964.
Yeah.
But I don't know how. It's a better kept secret than Area 51 because it seems like so many people just don't know about our training. And I would say that that also included a lot of the young people that were around me. And I think we just all didn't know what was available. And one of the things I love about Job Corps is now people who were growing up the way that I was, I can help them know that there is something else, that life doesn't have to be the way that it was, and that there are opportunities, even if you are not a polished diamond. In Job Corps, we can get you there.
Excellent. Now, you were the oldest of 6 kids. Was there a mom and dad at home?
Yes, both my parents are still married.
Mm-hmm.
They're not together, but still married.
Okay.
And they definitely did the best they could.
Right.
But since neither of them had graduated high school either, it definitely wasn't easy for them to raise so many kids.
So what did your mom do?
They were definitely underemployed. My dad drove a school bus,
mm-hmm.
and my mom worked in a mail factory.
Okay. So, I mean, nowadays we would frame that as the working poor, right? There are people who just don't have quite enough money to do all the things that they might want to do, but they're going to work every day and doing the best they can. So you must have been, can I say the word saddled with the responsibility of being like part kid and part parent?
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But I think it's made me who I am. And lots of people go through situations in their life where they learn responsibility early, and it benefits them later. Sometimes I meet Job Corps students who are doing the same thing. They're definitely taking a big role in their family, and then they need to step back and be able to just take care of themselves for a little while.
Yeah, and I don't know if you heard the first part of the show, Tammy, but Ratisha Berthier is here with me as my co-host tonight, and she's a trauma therapist.
Hi, Tammy.
Hello.
And do you hear what I'm hearing? Like, sometimes kids grow up in having that too much responsibility too soon, and it affects them negatively. In Tammy's case, I mean, she seems to have derived all the good possible.
Right. And I was thinking about that first story that we read about how sometimes when a sibling grows up in a household with a child that has
Special
a
needs.
special need,
Yeah.
and how a lot of times in that situation the sibling has to grow up quickly, pick up the slack, and how that doesn't always have to be a negative thing. That can be a positive.
There is a positive, yeah, and Tammy has just gotten that, to the nth degree. There was something else that you told me was a very stabilizing factor in your life growing up. Do you remember what you said to me, Tammy?
It was absolutely my church.
Yeah. It was your church that was a stabilizing factor. That's and is that true for like the whole family? Did you drag the little ones to church?
I think we all went, and I think that it helps life to make a little more sense, that everything that was very difficult at the time certainly wasn't because anyone had done anything wrong. It just was at that point. And although I think we all have different degrees of faith, I can tell you my sisters and my brother are still faithful people who really understand that lots of good things happen in the world, and you just got to keep working at it.
And people right now are wondering if this discussion is going to turn towards a faith discussion. And what I want to remind them of out there is that you work for Job Corps. Job Corps is a government agency, and you cannot have anything to do with faith as it relates to Job Corps. Is that correct?
That is correct. Our program is completely federally funded, and although you may find that many of my coworkers are definitely people of strong faith on our centers, that's not something that you would find that people talk openly about, because just like if they were at work, we're there to help get our students the training so they can move on to that next step in their life.
Absolutely, and it's about them, right? It's never about us.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to jump in real quick, and what I appreciate about what you shared is how, it's in the trauma world, we call that a protective factor. So, your church community was like a buffer. It helped you and your siblings to, manage what was going on, and how, we see that in a lot of situations, even with trauma, where there is either, a neighbor or someone at school, or there's some type of community that helps buffer the impact of that negative thing.
An anchor.
Right.
An
So that was
anchor, so to
awesome that
speak,
you
yeah.
had that.
But and you really did raise some of these kids, right?
Yes, I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, Mother's Day is always very interesting because you never know who's going to get a Mother's Day card. We only have one mom, but yet I get plenty of Mother's Day cards from the kids that I raised that were related to me, other people's kids that I ended up raising, nephews that I ended up raising. So I think it just definitely helps to broaden the term of what it means to be family.
And something else too that I think just amazes me about you, and I'm not flattering you unduly, I really am truly impressed, and let me tell you about the next thing on my mind, which is that a lot of times I see that people who were in your situation where they were raising their mom's kids, right, can't do what you said in the very outset, which is find that balance where you then go on and do things for yourself. They can't separate themselves from that. In fact, I know a girl who gave up a full ride to a college, because after like three months of being away or something like that, she just couldn't stand being away from the little one anymore and had to come back home. And I understand that drive. But you were able to sort of balance that, and so then you became the first person in your family to graduate college, correct?
Absolutely, and actually the first one to graduate high school also. So it was definitely two milestones that our family breached at that point. And fortunately, I'm not the last one. Some of my siblings did graduate, and now one of my sisters actually went to Job Corps 11 years ago, and she's never been unemployed a day in her life. And I think that really speaks to what Job Corps did, because it's helped her shape her work ethic. It's helped her to understand not only how to get a job, but also how to keep a job.
So were you an A student?
I was.
Good for you.
Mostly. I did have a little trouble with, one or two classes typing. But I'm much better at that now. My high school teacher would be proud of me. But in general, I did pretty well.
And then you went to college?
Absolutely. I did Stony Brook University right here on Long Island.
Okay. And so what did you study in college?
I have 2 bachelor's degrees. I have one in religion and one in social sciences. And social sciences is where I develop my strengths to be able to do the job I do for Job Corps.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And we're just going to talk one more second about the religious side because it's so impressive. You are still studying, correct?
I am a seminarian. If things continue to go well, and I hope that they will, I should be ordained in about a year and a half.
And when you say be ordained, will you be a minister at that point? Is that?
Yes, I will. I'm a minister that will be able to lead a church in a mainline denomination, because sometimes people are able to answer a call to a church in a church that's just localized, but I'll have official standing in my denomination, which is national.
Wow.
So it's a very big deal for me. I've been working at it for a long time, and I think it just kind of pulls all the pieces of my life together.
I think that's really quite amazing, and I'm sure that there are elements of that, even though proselytize at your job. I'm sure there are elements of that maybe give you a sense of empathy that others might not have toward the people who are entering into the Job Corps situation.
Absolutely. I think I'm definitely a humanist. I believe in the good of people, and every young person that walks through my door, it's really something to be able to see them and also know that maybe someone's not ready right now, but I've planted that seed, and they're going to come around and they're going to see. If I'd gone to Job Corps, I could have been almost done. It's been 6 months. What am I waiting for? And just having that patience, I think, helps people to realize that they too are a work in progress, and it's okay to take your time. You just want to come back around full circle and do what you need to do in order to be able to move forward and be the person that you want to be.
Absolutely amazing. So, all right. So you went to college. You got 2 bachelor's degrees. What did you do after college, after graduation?
For a very short time, I worked as a nanny because I had my first child. Now I have 5 million kids, but at that point I only had 1. And then when he was 2, I started working for Job Corps, and I'm happy to say I just celebrated my 12-year anniversary working for Job Corps.
5 million kids, huh? I hope it was an easy delivery.
Well, I do have 7. For real, I have 7 kids.
You have 7 children?
I guess I didn't tell you that the other day.
No,
yes, I do.
You sound like you're about 23.
Girls and 1 boy. I'm not. But thank you.
You're very welcome.
Did you say 1 on the way?
No, please, no more. I would cry. 7 is enough. I have 6 girls and 1 boy.
Tammy draws the line at 7.
Yes, I am.
Wow, that is just so impressive.
It's a hard line. We cannot pass that.
Wow. So, all right, so you are an outreach and admissions counselor, right? So tell us what an outreach and admissions counselor does.
Well, I get to have the pleasure of having 2 parts. I'm the outreach specialist and also an outreach counselor. So I get to be able to go out and tell people about Job Corps because I'm really passionate about it. I am so proud, prouder than I could ever express, when a young person goes to Job Corps, becomes a trade like electrician or plumbing or carpentry, or they work in the medical field, become an LPN, and they come out making way more money than me. And I get to go and tell lots of people about how they apply for a Job Corps, about how they get the application started. Because right now we happen to be in a really fortunate time where the government is increasing our funding for an enrollment surge. So our centers have more space right now than they had in the past due to this. And it benefits everybody because right now a student that completes their application is able to start training in some cases in just 2 to 5 weeks.
Wow.
So somebody could meet me this week and they could be training before the middle of September. And there's no time like now to start your future.
That's true.
And I
want
get
you
to share that with people.
I want you to hold that thought right there. Don't go away, Tammy, okay? Stay on the line. We're going to take a break for 1 minute, and when we come back, we're going to get pretty in-depth about Job Corps, okay? Stay right there. And those of you at home, stay right where you are as well. And please tell all your friends what we're talking about here. Job Corps is very, very serious. And if they know anybody who needs a restart in life, this is a way to get one. So don't go away. Back in a minute. You have a lot of questions there, I see. we are back. Before we go further, I do need to thank all the people who made donations to Age Out Angels this week. We thank you so very much for your generosity. If you have an employee giving fund or matching gifts foundation associated with your place of work, we would certainly appreciate your contacting us and telling us how we can participate in that. Private message me on Facebook or email directly to me, greg@ageoutangels.org. And I want to remind everyone that you can donate to Age Out Angels every time you make a purchase from Amazon. All you have to do is designate Age Out Angels to be your Amazon Smile designee, and a portion of your payment will go to Age Out Angels without it costing you 1 penny more. I can make it easy for you to do that. As your Amazon Smile recipient, all you have to do is contact me either via Facebook or greg@ageoutangels.org, and I can send you a link that will take you directly to our designation. Back now with Tammy Torelli, Outreach and Admissions Specialist from Job Corps. Did you have a question, Ratisha, that you wanted to ask Tammy?
Yes, I was wondering, Tammy, what types of training are the students, the kids, getting in the program?
We have several trades. Our goal is that every student that goes to our training will get either an accreditation or a certification in that field that will be nationally recognized. So someone could take things like auto mechanics, auto body, carpentry, electrician, plumbing, medical assistant, nursing assistant, culinary arts, commercial driver's license. We actually just added a new commercial driver's license program so they can also get a Class A now, which is pretty amazing. Those students do really, really well financially. We also have an EMT program. We have cement mason. We have brick mason. We have an advanced electrician program where students can learn to be a pole climber and fix the overhead lines for electricity.
Wow.
We can teach our students to build solar panels. We have Polovantics. We have several trades, hotel lodging. So when a young person comes in, we help them figure out what the next step is going to be for them based on what their preferences are, what their strengths are, and where they can see themselves going in the future. We even have office trades like business, technology, computer repair, A+ certification, and anyone who knows anything about computers, A+ certification is definitely top-notch. It helps someone really be employable in the field of their choice.
And
So we're always... Go ahead.
I hope what people who are listening out there are starting to understand now is that you are not training people to flip burgers at minimum wage or work at Walmart. You're training people to have careers, not jobs, and a lot of these careers, are sort of starting in the 40,000 and up,
Right.
Well-paying kind of range, and some of them, I would assume, like welding and some things like that, can get up there, pretty high.
Yes.
Certainly make as much as white collar, type jobs. So
That's awesome.
When you put someone into a program like this, and they stay with it, you're really changing their whole future.
Right.
That's what you're doing. That's why I think Job Corps is particularly amazing. Tammy, tell me how this works now. Let's say I'm 20 years old. Okay, I can have that fantasy. let's say
just last year. You're okay.
Yeah, right. Let's say I'm 20 years old, but I still have the same beautiful wife I have today. But I haven't finished high school, right? And what do I do? Like, do I just sort of show up at your door? Do I have to be referred by an organization like Age Out Angels? How does it work?
Well, we would love if you would show up. But just so you know, many of our students do have high school diplomas. And if someone already does, maybe they even have a year of college and they realize college is not for me, I would much rather training. Because like you said, students who go into training and they work in these careers can make as much as someone who has graduated college. I mean, I have 2 bachelor's degrees, and my overhead line construction students make twice as much as I do. So it's definitely a career path, and it all starts by contacting an admissions counselor. You can go the traditional way and call our 1-800 number, which is 1-800-733-JOBS, or you can go to our recruiting website, which is dynamic. It's so helpful. It's www.recruiting.jobcorps, which is corps.gov. Or you can even call our main office in Brooklyn. Now, I know the radio station is based in New Jersey, but they can always field you to the right admissions counselor because we're a national program. So we have people that come from New York, that come from New Jersey, come from Connecticut, lots of different places, and they're all going on to training. So the number to that office, where you can always get linked to an admissions counselor right away, as long as it's during the day, is 718-522-0144. And after that, you gather your documents, you go in for an information session where you learn about the program, and in many cases, you can make an application the very same day, pick a Job Corps center, and then soon you're on your way to training. And we will even pay for you to get to the Job Corps center because we don't want there to be any barriers to your employment. So you come on in and we'll take care of the rest. We just look for students who are drug-free, who are motivated and ready to work. That's really what we look for in somebody. The rest we can help anybody with.
I think drug-free is one of the keys here. I just don't know a single program that is willing to accept people in who can't pass a drug screen.
Right.
Nobody is going to put their money behind.
Right. You need to be clean.
Someone who can't do that.
Tammy, are there age restrictions for the program?
Our age is from 16 to 24 years old.
Okay.
So it's just for young people. There are certain times when we might take a student who's a little older under certain circumstances, but our target age is always 16 to 24. When someone is 16, if they're doing well in high school, we absolutely say stay in high school.
Yeah.
Job Corps is still going to be here when you're done. But if someone's finished high school, or maybe they've already left high school, then Job Corps shouldn't be considered a last option. It should be considered their first opportunity. Because one thing that's different about us, and I'm sure you've already heard a lot of things that are different, but our program is completely self-paced and it's hands-on. So the three of us could start culinary arts on the same day, and one of us is really great at cooking meat, and one of us is really great at pies, and somebody else makes a delicious tiramisu, and we can keep working on those skills. But in Job Corps, if you're really good at something, you demonstrate it to your instructor, and then you can move on with that skill, and it doesn't have to take you the whole day.
I just
but
got
if you
so
need
hungry.
3 days to do something, then take 3 days to do it, and that's okay.
It's Tammy, it's amazing. So let me ask you this. Let's say I've graduated high school, and I'm still 20 in this fantasy, by the way. I've graduated high school. Do I still have to sort of test? Is there that sort of math and language testing that takes place?
There is, but it's
Okay.
to a student's benefit because we want our students. I know you're not even there yet in this 20-year-old fantasy, and we're already rushing you through. But we want our students to come in, get what they need to get, and then move on to employment. And the best way to make sure that happens is to make sure someone is ready academically.
Right.
So if you need a little help with math, we're there for you. And if you don't, that's great. If you need help with reading, we're there. Maybe you need help with both. Maybe you need help with neither. It doesn't really matter where you start because it's individualized. Either way, you can get where you need to go.
And so you will give me the remedial help that I need in those subjects, correct?
Absolutely.
And so where will I live while I do all this?
Right on our dorm. Right on our Job Corps Center, which removes
so sweet.
another barrier of employment, which is transportation.
It's so sweet.
So while our
yes.
students are living on our center, they get up in the morning, go down to breakfast. Breakfast is buffet style. Lunch, dinner, that's covered by Job Corps too. And everything is right on the center. And then they can still go home on weekends, which they pay for their transportation for that. They can go home at Christmas for 2 weeks. But like a job, they do train all year round. So we want our students to understand that we're like a job, which is why we're called Job Corps. So if it would be okay at work, it's usually okay with us.
Wow.
Tammy, does the program follow the graduates? Do you guys, stay in contact?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we have a dynamic placement rate. And
Wow.
in New York and New Jersey, I'm proud to say that I'm part of that team that helps track students, and people show up at our doors all the time to let us know how well they're doing. And we also have a graduate minimum wage. So when our students leave Job Corps, we want them to have employment right away. And we actually have a bonus for them for completing. And they get half of it the day they leave, and the other half when they let us know they're working or they contact us for those employment services, which last a full year after they're done with Job Corps.
Wow.
So there's a financial incentive to keeping up with us and making sure you're still doing a great job.
That is
Fantastic,
amazing.
yeah. Now, all right, so let me throw another curveball at you. I've finished the program. I'm ready to go to work. But the fact of the matter is, the minute I walk out of your facility, I am homeless. Can you help
We
me
do
with
our
that?
very best to help students plan for things like that ahead of time. We do have the availability for students to be able to spend a little more time on the center and work in the community for work-based learning, and we will hold 75% of their pay for them. So you know you don't have somewhere to go, and you're working, and this is just a scenario. I'd hope you make a lot more money than that, but we'll just use some round numbers. You make $100 a week, and we'll hold 75 for you. And the day that you leave, we cut the student a check for the money that they've earned so that they can work on that transition planning. Because we're all about planning, all about making steps, all about helping our students keep attainable goals while they're reaching for those stars. But definitely being homeless can definitely be an issue that our young people face. So we work on that through the whole time they're enrolled.
Tammy, is there a mental health component to the program? Just thinking about
Most of our students don't need that, but for someone who does, every Job Corps center is staffed with a wellness office where there's a doctor, a dentist, an OBGYN, an RN, LPNs, and we also have a center mental health consultant. If someone takes medication, we would ask that they still be in contact with their provider in the community where they come from. But if someone, let's say they get onto the center and it's been a little stressful for the transition, which could happen to any of us when we're doing something new, we absolutely have someone there that can help them through those difficult moments.
That's awesome.
You know, a lot of the people that I come in contact with, you know, have some pretty, I'm going to call them unrealistic goals, because the only professions that have ever been modeled, you know, in their lives are professions like, you know, social worker, which is a realistic goal. But, you know, a child will look at me and I'll say, what do you want to be? And they'll say, a judge. What do you?
And I would say, let's get you a diploma first.
Okay.
This is a good step. Let's work on these goals, and let's get you into the security field. Let's get you a civil service exam. Let's see if that's really the right thing for you. And do you understand what that job does? I had a young man once who said, I really want to be a nurse. I said, that's great. Tell me what your ideal part of that job is. And he said, but wait, I have a question. If I throw up on somebody, do you think they'd be upset about that? Because I don't really like blood.
Oh, no.
And I said, okay, maybe CNA is not the trade for you. What else could we do in that medical field that might match you?
Uh-huh.
So we sit down and we talk to our students about who they are. And I had a student just yesterday who said, I am not a big fan of blood, but I want this job so badly, I will do whatever I need to do to be ready for that. And I said, then you've got the motivation, we'll provide the training. So we just take small steps to get them where they need to be.
How many students do you have? Like you're in there. First of all, there are multiple Job Corps facilities across the country, right?
Yes, there are.
How many?
We mostly send to Job Corps that are in New York and New Jersey. There's one right in Edison, New Jersey. There are 7 in New York, 6 which have dorms. There's one right in the South Bronx, which if you ever saw it, and I encourage you to Google it, it looks like a castle. It's beautiful. You would never think that building belongs in the Bronx. We have one near Albany, one in Oneonta, one in Sullivan County, which is the Delaware Valley Job Corps, 2 near Buffalo, and we also have a Job Corps center that's in Brooklyn, but Brooklyn doesn't have dorms.
I've
So mostly,
I've been to
Go
the one.
ahead.
I've been to the one in New Brunswick, in New Jersey, and it's really kind of a beautiful facility. But so how many people? What's sort of a ballpark average number of inhabitants of a Job
Job
Corps?
Corps is a little smaller than people think because our program is expensive to run.
Right.
Our typical Job Corps is about 200 students with about 100 staff members. So we work really hard to make sure everybody has what they need, from the culinary staff to the driving instructor that helps someone get their driver's license, to the transportation people, to the counseling staff, residential advisors. There's people all over the place in Job Corps. So that's part of how we get done so quickly. Because someone could be a medical assistant and take 2 years. In Job Corps, they can do that in 8 months if their academics are where they need to be.
Now, you said that they have to have eligibility documents. Now, a lot of the people that I meet, have no idea or what a birth certificate is, not only where it is, or a social security card, or a state-issued ID, or a driver's license. Those things get lost along the way sometimes, especially when they're fostered from, from home to home to home. Can you help them get those eligibility docs, or is that something they got to bring to the table in the first day?
We'll direct them how to get them, and if they work with one of our partner agencies, very often those agencies are willing to share those documents with us. So, for example, out here in Suffolk County, I have a great relationship with the Department of Social Services, and if someone has had public assistance in the past, they have a copy of their birth certificate, and we sign a release form, and they're willing to share that with us in order to help those young people get where they need to be. But if nobody has those documents, we'll definitely direct them to the right resources or see what else we can use. Some things are a must. We absolutely need their Social Security card because we need to make sure they're eligible to work in the United States.
Right.
Because training someone who can't work would be counterproductive.
Absolutely.
But most other things are negotiable. Like, we can help get a transcript, we can help get an immunization record, we can help with proof of income. So those are the basic things that we need, and if a student doesn't have them, we're always willing to do what we can on our end to help them move forward.
Tammy, 1 minute to go. I want you to repeat those websites and phone numbers and anything else that people need to contact Job Corps, okay? Go.
I would say definitely our recruiting website, which is www.recruiting.jobcorps.gov, or call our Brooklyn office, and you'll be directed right to an admissions counselor at 718-522-0144. And you can always find us online. You can find us an email. Just Google Job Corps. You can't get rid of us. We pop right up.
Fantastic. I wish you good luck in your expansion. I promised our listeners when we started this broadcast that you would be a firecracker, and you certainly have delivered. Your passion and your sense of helping people is totally evident in everything that you do. Tammy, we thank you so much for being on our show tonight. I'm sorry we have to let you go now, but I hope
thank you for having me.
I hope you'll come back, at different times. Call in whenever you like and give us updates on your progress. Will you do that?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. You have a good evening.
Thank you, Tammy.
All right, let's take a short break, and we'll be back in just a minute with a couple more interesting things, so don't go away. And we are back. Once again, it's Greg Rapport with Ratisha Berthier, my co-host for the evening. I'm so glad to have you here, Ratisha.
I'm so happy to be here with you.
Foster youth are among us, and statistically speaking, they're not doing so well. The first step to helping is becoming more educated on the foster care system and the general experiences that foster youth go through. Here's Ratisha with 7 things everyone should know about foster care.
Yes. Okay. So 1, Foster care was originally designed to be a temporary, not a permanent solution. The foster care system is designed to provide a safe, temporary haven for youth who are living in unsafe conditions or are being abused or neglected. 2, entering the foster care system can be a scary, terrifying experience. It's a common misconception that most of the immediate issues and worries of foster youth instantly dissolve once they are placed into foster care. Unfortunately, quite the opposite is true, because they are stripped completely of any sense of control they once had. And also, there are numerous cases where, a child in foster care has experienced the same or even worse trauma than they experience in their home.
Right.
So that happens in foster care as well.
That's true.
3, foster care and adoption are not synonymous. So, foster care itself is not an adoption. Adoption is one of the several permanency options that foster youth have given certain conditions, and some stay in the foster care system until they choose to exit the system as an adult or are forced to age out. Number 4, aging out is a weird concept. When foster youth age out of the foster care system, they are cut from some of the resources they previously were eligible for. Many foster youth are aging out woefully, unprepared for adult life, while some youth are utilizing available resources once leaving the foster care system. The vast majority of foster youth are not accessing these resources. 5, you don't have to be a foster parent or a social worker to help foster youth. Not everyone can take on the responsibility of becoming a foster parent, and that's okay. There are many other ways to help foster youth. You can offer a free photography session to foster youth in need. You can offer rides to and from extracurricular activities. You can offer a current or former foster youth a place to eat holiday meals. Everyone has the capacity or the capability to help foster youth in some capacity. Foster youth have everyday kid problems. So due to the incredibly difficult experiences that many foster youth go through, it's easy to forget that foster youth also deal with normal kid problems as well. But it's important to not label every difficult situation or experience a foster youth experience. It's a great idea to let foster youth know what they are going through is totally normal. And lastly, they're not just foster kids. Foster just explains one extraordinary part of their lives that they have had to live through. There are people with varied interests and ambitions, just like you and I.
Yeah, just like us, right?
Yes.
People forget that there's whole human beings,
right?
Somewhere under there.
Right. So, Greg, I'm wondering, so what, if a person wants to help a foster youth and really get involved in their life in some way, what should they do? How would they go about that?
Well, I think it's probably the easiest thing to do right now, because thank goodness we live in the age of Google. Because there are people listening to this right now actually all across the world, and certainly across the United States. And so what you would just do is Google become a foster parent in, and then the name of your state.
Okay.
They call it something different in every state. It's the Department of Children, the Department of Children and Families. Here it's DCP&P.
Right.
Permanency and Protection, I think.
Yes.
The P&P part of it stands for.
Right.
So just Google that if you want to get involved with the foster care system in some way. You don't have to be a full-on foster parent. It's very important for people to realize that.
Right.
The bigger the support structure a child has, then the better it is. And you will have to go through some training. You will have to be vetted. You can't just get a kid,
right,
and start going around town. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
You got to take a fingerprint check and have a clean background yourself. But once you do that, it can be so totally worthwhile. Or I would suggest one other thing you could do would be to give us a call at Age Out Angels, for example. 609-306-0821 is our phone number at Age Out Angels, and I'm sure we could help you further in some capacity. I had a thing that I was going to read here that I wrote earlier in the week, but something happened to me day before yesterday that just struck me, and I just want to say it before it leaves my mind. I was at an event sponsored by the Progressive Center for Independent Living, who you might recall was my guest last week on the show, and I was at their annual picnic. And I was overeating, and so there I am with potato chips in one hand and a Diet Coke, in the other, pretending that I wasn't going to have sugar and calories. So anyway, so there I am, and I'm reaching over to get the Coke, and I feel a hand on my forearm, So I turn around to see whose hand that is. And there is a severely physically challenged child, I think. I mean, the person could have been 15 or they could have been 35. I can't always tell, And this person was severely physically challenged. They were in a wheelchair. They didn't really have speech. Didn't have full coordination, muscle control, But somehow this young man had reached out and touched my arm. And, I turned to him and I said, okay, what do you want? I'm trying to figure out, what it is that he wants. And I said, oh, is it the soda? Do you want the soda? Right? And his father was there. And his father said, no, he can't have soda. So I thought, well, maybe he wants it anyway, right? But no, it wasn't the soda. I said, oh, it's the chips. You want the chips? And the father said, no, he can't have the chips. And then the child seemed to reach out to want to shake my hand, right? So I moved my right hand in, and I sort of shook his hand. You could tell his muscles didn't work exactly right, But I started to shake his hand, and then as I started to move my hand away, the handshake was over, he wouldn't let go, right? He was holding on. And the father at that moment became I'm not sure what the word for it, maybe a little embarrassed or something like that, and he said, no, Mike. The child's name was Mikey. No, Mikey, you have to let go. You have to let go. And then it hit me, and I said, no, what he wanted was touch. I looked at him and I said, you want to touch my skin, don't you? And he smiled, He smiled, and I knew I had struck the right chord, with him.
Wow.
And it was like such an exciting moment. And so then I said to his father, I said, no, it's okay. It's all right. And I let him continue to hold my hand, and then I put my other hand, on top of his. Beautiful. And his eyes started to beam, and this huge smile came across his face, and it just made me think, how important and probably often forgotten,
human touch,
gentle, right. Human touch, loving human touch, that whole tactile thing. And I used to say this all the time when I used to travel on business, that the thing I missed the most when I was in some swanky hotel room on the company's dime, alone, right, was the thing that I missed the most was human touch. So I don't know what the moral of that story is. Go out and touch somebody, but not in a creepy way. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, another hour talking about youth who should matter more in our discourse. Thank you so much to Hamilton Radio, to Tammy Torelli from Job Corps, our engineer, Doc G, our producer, Robin, to my co-host, Ratisha Berthier. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
You're welcome.
Hope to see you again soon. Music, as always, provided by Kurt Seldom-Ridge, owner-operator of the Cave Rehearsal Recording Space. Join me next Thursday, August 30th. My guest will be Antonio Garcia from the University of Pennsylvania. So until then, let's make this week the best week ever.